All right. Uh, so thank you for coming to our seminar. Yeah. We'll wait maybe 2 or 3 minutes for you to join, and we'll get right into it. All right, what's up, guys? Nice to see you all here. Thank you for coming to our first seminar slash talk of this semester. titled Let's Talk Tech. What is data engineering? We have a good lineup today. So let me talk you through it. Today we have a whole team from Zalora. Zalora is Asia's leading online fashion, beauty, and lifestyle destination, part of the global fashion group. As one of the region's pioneer large-scale e-commerce platforms, Zalora has established a strong presence throughout the region, particularly in Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei, Philippines, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. And it has 50 million visits per month. So we can pretty much say it's a pretty big deal now. And leading its data engineering team is Mr. Mohamed Diab, who has 13 years of experience in the vast field of software engineering, mobile applications, solution architecture, so on and so forth. And for the last 5 years, he has been dedicated to architecture and data solutions. And he is the driving force of data solutions in Zalora. We also have Yannick and Jason coming on later in the talk from the HR team. So you should stay tuned for that. They'll tell you all about hiring, what it takes to get hired, and some career tips in general. They'll also share a form with you to fill for internship opportunities and full-time job opportunities as well. We will have a short Q&A after every talk. So Mr. Mohamed Diab will start right after me. Then a Q&A will happen. You can submit your questions through YouTube comments all throughout the talk, and I will collect these questions and say them on your behalf. Then there will be a short 5-minute break. Then Yannick will go on, then Jason will go on, and then there'll be a Q&A again where you can ask them whatever questions you want. That's it for me. Please remember to follow us on all the socials, and Mr. Mohamed Diab will take it from here.
Thanks, Ibrahim, for the intro. Really glad actually to be here with you guys. Let me share my screen. This is like the number one most frequent sentence has been said this year. So hope all is seeing my screen. I'm going to talk with you guys. I'm going to share some advices on how to start a career in data. You can call me Diab. I'm leading the data engineering team as Ibrahim at Zalora, and you can find me in at LinkedIn at this link. And honestly, usually I have this kind of like conversation with so many friends, so many students, how to start like a data career. We have those conversations like a very casual way on a cafe when we're having dinner, this kind of stuff. So I don't want this presentation to be like a very formal, like one-sided presentation. I want also to hear your opinions. Usually if that will be like in a different time, we will be like actually connecting face-to-face, seeing each other, having a more engaging conversation, but this is the way it is. So consider me your virtual friend for the next hour, and let's get started. So I have been in the industry since 2007, and what actually kept me going all of that way is having a right mindset, right? And this is not only me. This most of the engineers I know, most of the engineers who actually can keep coding for more than like 20 years, and they keep still coding and developing stuff, which is actually the mindset is the most crucial thing ever. Has to be, you have to pause a while before actually choosing like a career, data career, mobile app, web development. It doesn't really make a difference. What makes a difference is your mindset toward engineering, right? You guys are lucky because I guess most of you guys are actually from computer science college, so you're already exposed to engineering mindset, right? But also I want to focus on some points that will keep you going, helping you even to become more professional at what you're doing now, or actually help you to shift from multiple, development area. On myself, I shifted from being like a back-end developer, front-end mobile developer, creating mobile apps, and then solution architect, switching to data, and all of those transitions. Like I didn't feel it was hard because the mindset actually was the thing that kept me going through the journey. So when we talk about mindset, there's basically three main points. And you guys have to really focus on these three main points before doing anything else. First, you're starting data, you're starting mobile, you're starting web. Ask yourself how things work in the background. Don't just follow tutorial, run it. It's working. You feel happy about it. I can see the output. Like this record actually shows up in the database. This actually is not the whole point of engineering, right? What makes a good engineer is he understands how things work together, right? If you are a web developer, you have to know how the server works, how the whole HTTP request comes in, how the process happens, how the server split the process, how the threads goes. Like this kind of stuff is really mandatory. If you're coding like a mobile apps, then the same, right? You have to actually know what activity means. Like that's the thing I know about Android, right? How actually the flow goes, right? How things compile at the low level. You don't have to just do it yourself, but you have to be like aware of how things actually work, right? This is how we can utilize all of your features. This is how we can utilize when you know the whole picture. Without that, it would be just copying and pasting stuff from different sources without actually knowing the reason why these things work, right? Second point I want to share with you is the ability to be agile, learn, and adapt. So I'll tell you a short sad story. Like I know some of my friends that used to be Symbian developer. I'm not sure actually if you even know that term. That was like the Nokia operating system at the day. So many people were making a really good salary of just developing apps that run on Nokia platform, right? And then what happened? Right? Like 4 years later, after I know these people, suddenly Nokia is not in the game anymore, right? And then there's another company that actually taking the market, and your knowledge is actually worthless in this market, right? And this is like not a story. Like I know those people, right? I was there during the shift from Symbian to Android and iPhone, right? So the good engineers who managed to smoothly actually transfer to the other iPhone or Android or this kind of stuff. Because for them, they just don't know Symbian. They know like how the whole things work, right? They have the whole picture. So if you just switching to another platform, it doesn't make any difference. You can easily learn and adapt once you got the basics done. And that's why you guys are really lucky to be in a computer science college to actually know how things work together as an engineer. I would advise you to always, right, challenge yourself. Get, we call it like a breakable toy. Create a new application, right? Think about any idea that, a Friday project, and use a language you have never used before, right? If you know C#, try Python. If you know PHP, try Ruby on Rails. If you know Ruby on Rails, try Elixir. Try to challenge yourself in different criteria. And the third point is never over-engineer things, right? So because you have like an engineering background, that doesn't mean you need to put engineering in every sentence, right? The good engineer is the one who actually use the right solution at the right problem, right? It's not you're trying to get the best engineering solution to just fix a small problem that doesn't need that much. If you have those 3 points like in mind all the time, you're going to make the switch from data to web to data, like anything that you actually move very smoothly during those fields. And there's I totally recommend you guys like a book called Apprenticeship Patterns. He speaks more about having this kind of like mindset ideas as well. So let's go next. Now, I studied software engineering, so many of you guys as well, and data was something new to us. So basically, there was no more. I guess we didn't find like a proper college that actually just teach data as like a separate field, right? It's becoming a thing now, but it's still not that trending. So now we are a software engineer or having an engineering mindset. How to actually to move to data? There is some differences here and there that it was quite shocking for me, right, when I first started. So let's go with the first one, ORM. I'm pretty sure like most of you know ORM, which is object relational mapping, right? So the whole point of ORM when you think of it as an engineer, what you want to do is you want to separate the infrastructure, right, from the application side of things, right? So if you have an object that's called user, the object user map to a table that's called user in the database, but actually the application is interacting with your object. That's why like you have like another like separation of layer. But that's really good in a web applications. That's really good in mobile applications. But in data, it doesn't exist because there's no point, right? Is you need actually if you can go to the level, to the physical level of where actually the file is being stored and get it, you will, right? With data, what we really care in that sense is not that separation of layer, right? Is we need to go right away to the data source. We really want to avoid any kind of overhead in the mean, in the process, something that could delay us on getting the data, or something that actually can create like another layer of errors to get the data. So first thing, coming from an engineering mindset, that was specifically web development, that was actually like quite shocking. ORM is not totally recommended. It doesn't exist. No one is using that. And it's to write like a complex query on ORM, like you can spend like really, really days. And good luck with trying to get something done with this. Second thing is most of you guys, either from mobile or web, you're actually using relational database, right? So you're using MySQL, Postgres, even SQLite. In data, those databases are actually your source of information. They will never be your destination, right? Unless like very specific cases, right? Because they actually, what the thing is with MySQL, Postgres, all of this relational data, it was made in the mind, in kind of like the perspective of serving the application itself, right? So you try to organize your data, you put it into tables, you try to avoid duplicates as much as you can. The main purpose of it is just to insert some records and fetch some information really quick, right? But with data, like this kind of like setup doesn't exist, right? You will never have a report running on a MySQL database. That's actually crazy. And if you have it, that means you don't work for a big company, right? Because the data is too small, so that actually MySQL is okay to serve that purpose, right? And then when it comes to database design, you have been learning for the past few years that you have to organize everything, structure everything into tables. Every table means something, and you're supposed to do joins, avoid duplicates and this kind of things, cascading rules, to actually serve the whole application data infrastructure, right? But when it comes to data engineering, data science, data analysis, right? You don't care about this, right? You go all the way from normalization to denormalization, right? You want, for example, if you have like a system for booking stuff, right? So there's a user who book actually a bus ticket, right? For example, in a MySQL world, you will have like a table for the users, table for the bookings, and then you map them, and then you probably have like 3 tables in that process. When it comes to data, it's like, no, you never do that, right? You actually denormalize everything. You put all of the information together in one big table. You need to fetch the data from one source of truth. You need to do the reporting to avoid every single join you can. And usually that querying will be happening on a data warehouse, which is not like a MySQL or a Postgres, right? They may seem like it's a very SQL friendly, but they are not Postgres or they're not MySQL. There are so many choices out there. There is BigQuery, there's Redshift, and there is also Microsoft Azure. They have their own, but usually it's something totally different from the normal MySQL. Third thing is coming from also like a software engineering mindset, web apps, mobile apps, you care about response time, right? Because there is a user waiting on the front of the screen to see something, right? To interact with something. When it comes to data, no one cares. What you're doing actually, your customers are different, right? You're not facing the front, like the users of the company. What you're building is actually like inside the company with a specific, totally different set of customers. For sure, no one wants to like wait for half an hour to report to be ready, but it's really acceptable sometimes to have a pipeline that runs in 6 hours. No one will care, right? If it works, if the report is daily, it's like no one will care. Like 6 hours, like if you even think about that number in terms of software engineering, you're doing like a disaster, right? But when it comes to data, no, it's a total shift of the way of thinking. And as I mentioned, like your users are actually quite different, right? So either you're analyst, scientist, engineer, the users are actually quite different for you. So usually they're the users within the company, either the executive team, marketing, finance, revenue, all of the operations team, or actually what you're doing or your data pipeline is doing, or even your machine learning models are doing, is enhancing like another system, like a back-end system. So for example, let's say you're a data scientist, you're building a recommendation engine, right? So your users in that sense will be the back-end system that actually will fetch the recommendation from your model to display to the users, right? So this is, for example, one example of how the back-end can be your users. If you're a data engineer and data analyst, you're actually more into like the left side, like the marketing finance executives in the company. And the data engineers will be like in the middle trying to put the pieces together here and there. But anyway, we'll talk more in details about the roles and how they fit in the company. Your strengths point that if you are graduating, if you're still undergrad, is actually three main things. If you have those, basically you can do so many things in your career. If you have a good SQL knowledge, you can easily jump into data, right? For sure, you won't be like a data expert the first day, but it will save you so much time. Second thing is, for sure, you guys, like, I'm not sure, like, I'm not sure about the audience and at what degree you guys at, but having a programming language of the right away after the college is a must-have, right? So if during your study you were focusing on Python, that's good. Keep it. Work harder on that to become like a more comfortable with it. You can and kind of like have a solid-ish experience with it, right? The third part is the CI/CD, right? It's like the continuous integration, continuous development, right? So the thing with CI/CD, it's not about just the idea of the CI/CD, right? It's like having those like good engineering practices, right? So CI/CD still works in data, works in mobile, works in web, works everywhere. You need a way to, all the time that you need to have a continuous deployment, you need a way to test what you're doing, either the pipeline, either a report, either a machine learning model. No one cares. It's still this thing that you wrote has to be tested, right? So having those three main pillars will actually give you like a really good boost, at least like a really good entry level to be in the market, right? Just having the three of those will really empower you to just get started, right? And then let's now talk like about like the data team itself, like the structure of a data team, how the people work together, how it looks like. But let's pause a minute. Why we need one, right? Because I guess like 10 years ago, you won't really find a team that does actually data, right? It was like a very small member here and very small teams here and there trying to get some reports up and running. And usually they will use like Excel sheets, and it was like a really hectic process. And only the big companies will have a data team. But why now? Almost every company has a data team. So first, because big data wasn't there, right? And big data is a real term that it's so simple, but people making like a big deal of it, right? Because when I even first moved to the field, I was wondering what big data is, right? So big data is, consider it's your MySQL database, your Postgres database, whatever data storage you have, right? But this data has actually three main characters, right? They're so huge in volume, right? Which is something we can leverage now because of the cloud solution that we have. We were able to store that much of volume without the hustle of having like a zillion on-premise server, million server on-premise, and then have to spend all the servers around, having a team to do the networking and this kind of stuff. Is like, no, now because of the cloud, the big players there, we can actually store as much as we can, right? And the whole game is actually changed. The velocity of the data now is not only the web applications send data, you have IoT industry sending data, your mobile app sending data. There are so many sensors and so many zillions of other data sources that actually sending data, and they're sending them into different speed, right? Some of them will be sending them like in a streaming way. is whenever the event happen, the data will come to you, some of them like in batches. So the velocity is also different, right? And then the variety of the data itself. There are so many different types of data that you can get. The normal one that you know is like the structured data, is like the MySQL, Postgres. There is unstructured, there is comes in terms of unstructured, has so many types, can be like a document, can be like images, can be like anything that actually you're not aware of the structure of the data itself. Second thing, so now we have a data team because there is a big data and we need to do something about it, right? Second most important thing, right, is how actually your company make decisions. If your company is like this, it's like because I feel so, because if I said so, I'm the boss, I do whatever I want, it's not something that actually going to last, right? We are that at this specific time of history, right, that we can be really data driven. I have interviewed many people in many companies that actually to change a button on the website, it has to be like a data driven decision, right? So just making some random calls because you are in a lead position, or you're kind of like the manager of the company, or because you're investing in the company, it doesn't work anymore. So that's why like the data is there, right? If you have if you have like a mobile application and then your customer is using Facebook to log in, and then suddenly you came up the next day and said, no, I don't like Facebook, I want to remove that button from my app. And then the data will tell you, oh, but actually there's 70% of your users using the button. If you ignore that, what is going to happen, right? So it's basically the data-driven company era, right? You can make super detailed decisions about almost everything as long as you have the data. Now let's talk about the data team and how they all fit together, right? So in a data team, they are usually around those 5 rules, right? So let's start with the first one. I will just go in more details on each, but to give you an idea, there is the data analyst, data engineer, data scientist, there is a data product manager, and there's a DevOps, right? So data product management and DevOps also guys like a really important roles that no one is talking about anymore like into the tech industry, but it's actually super crucial. So being a data product manager, for example, you are the bridge between the business and the team, right? You are actually the one owning the product, like the data as a product, and actually you are managing the whole flow between all of those people. It's a really important job. Without it, you can really easily tell that this team doesn't work in a harmony because they don't have like a good data product manager, right? Because he's also aware of what an analyst can do, what an engineer can do, what scientists can do. So all the stuff come to him from the business. He managed to get this flow up and running between them. DevOps, there are so many debates about DevOps, but anyway, if you want to work with the DevOps in data, usually it's an on-premise setup, right? So is your company has their own servers or their own data centers, and they need team to maintain, spin those kind of like servers. Some of them, and actually that's the way I prefer it, we ask the data engineers themselves to be the DevOps, right? So if you're a data engineer, then actually should be aware also of some DevOps. So we don't need another team for DevOps. But anyway, it's a big debate, and the scope is out of this presentation. So let's go in details to see what each of these titles actually do. So data analyst, right? So your job as a data analyst, right? You are the person who makes sense out of the data. You're always the guy who question the numbers, right? You're always the guy who say how we can do this better, right? Is why this launch failed, why we're not making that much revenue. You always ask questions, right? And then the way you use to actually answer those questions, this is where it comes to your tech skills. So your tech skills in that point is for sure you have to have a very strong SQL knowledge. You will be writing a really intensive, complex queries to get some data out of the warehouse, right? because this is your own questions, this is your own assumptions, and you need to validate them, right? So you will go through the warehouse and fetch some data to prove your point or actually answer one of your questions. And then once you have like the data out there, there's supposed to like a tool that how we are going to communicate this to the business. So visualization tools like Google Data Studio, Tableau, Power BI, there are so many visualization tools that if you're going through the analyst track, then you should actually be aware of them actually as well, right? This is something will be used a lot to actually explain your points. And for sure, you have to have like a very strong communication skills. That's like not a technical skill, it's one of the soft skills, but actually very crucial. How actually communicate with the business, how you speak their own language, right? Also, you have to, and if you're choosing the analyst track, you need to be aware of the marketing tools. Like for example, GA, Google Analytics is, I guess everyone knows Google Analytics. It's just a tool for measuring the traffic on the website, mobile app. Mixpanel is kind of like how to track the traffic on a funnel. Braze is more into like engagement-ish platform with mobile apps. But anyway, I'm just listing some names so you guys can check them out if you're working, if you're having a thought about being a data analyst. Programming language in that sense is not very crucial, not very required to have it. It's nice to have, but it's maybe you have to write some scripts here and there, but it's actually not mandatory. Also, there's a very, very, very important thing that analysts do is A/B testing. So if you have an assumption, if you, for example, know the product didn't launch because the landing page, the button that actually add to cart is actually in a wrong place. It's supposed to be like on the left, not on the right, something like that. Then you will be the one initiating the A/B testing. You will be the one judging the data. So to prove the point. Now, for example, we have like a successful launch because actually this is the right place of the checkout button, and this is the most efficient way for us to go through it, right? It's a very interesting role, very, very active in the company. People interact with them all the day, right? Second one, which is my role, I will be talking more here because this is where my experience is, which is data engineer, right? As a data engineer, right? Because this is, how I would say this, because people confuse data engineer a lot with scientists. They're totally different, right? You as a data engineer, you don't have to know machine learning at all. Like you can really live without knowing a machine learning algorithm or AI, and you can be really one of the good, actually expert data engineers in the field. Here's why, right? As a data engineer, like think about the setup of any company, right? So online company, usually they have web apps, mobile apps running, and then those apps send some data that actually stored in some databases here and there. There is always like a customer support, CRM, something running at the back of the operation side, also have their own database. There is also like a Google Analytics or another service you have been using. So data is actually scattered across all over the place, right? This is what will happen when, well, basically with any setup of the company, you can't put everything in one place. That would be really, really hard for you, right? So there'll be some your Facebook ads, your Google ads, your YouTube, like all of this data are coming from different sources, right? So as a data engineer, you're actually the one who put this thing into like a warehouse, right? And you're not just bringing the data randomly to the warehouse. Is every pipeline you are building has to have like a purpose, right? Is why we're building this. You are the one who actually building the pipeline to get from the source, transform it in a way that serves the objective of the pipeline, load it into the warehouse so you can actually get some meaningful data out of it. So an analyst can go and then open the warehouse and actually see what he can do from there, right? So engineering is basically you're working on pipelines, right? Pipelines, I would say like this a lot during the presentation, is a pipeline where there is a source, there is a destination, and there is some transformation happening. Why this is challenging? Because data volume is huge, is really huge, right? We're not talking here about small databases in megas. We're not even talking about tears, right? We're talking like even bigger than that. So you as an engineer, data engineer in that sense, your main job is how to build a scalable data pipelines that actually can fit and can scale to the amount of data you're actually processing every day. So here's the stuff that you should know, right? For sure, you have to know strong SQL knowledge. You'll be using that a lot. A knowledge of one of the cloud solutions is a must, I would say. It's up to you to choose. There's Google Cloud, there's Amazon, there's Azure. If you know one of them, perfect. If you know two, perfect. If you know all, it's good for you. But just make sure you have some solid grasp on one of them. The same good engineering practices, how to write a clean code. We're not going to go through this because it's more into like an engineering side of things, like how to write a clean code, how to write like a good design pattern here and there, how to make your code testable, how to have like a CI/CD in that sense. This is must have as well. Programming language, for sure, you have to know one here. You won't survive without one. You won't actually get the job without one, right? MapReduce concepts. Basically, MapReduce is a very old algorithm that Google came up in 1995 to actually help them scan basically the entire web, right? How we index the entire web, right? The idea is so simple, but you have to be aware of actually what is it, right? It's basically dividing a small task onto nodes, process them, and then gather them by the end. But if you're going through the data engineer, just go Google it, start learning more about MapReduce. You will get exposure to the whole Hadoop ecosystem because it's really relying on MapReduce. Batching versus streaming is a very common thing that you will have as a data engineer. Every pipeline can be either run in batches or a stream. And batches means like every week you will run a job that get the data for the previous week, or every day by night you will just going to pull some data. Streaming is when the moment the data is actually taking place, you're transforming, loading the data, and acting on it. You can see this like very common in, for example, games, right? If you do like specific set of events on the game, there will be something interacting with you back. It's kind of like, hey, by the way, you can use this treasure to help you to go to the next level. What happened is all of these events went to a data pipeline, processed, and then there's an information came up from that processing and then sent back to you. Data modeling is how actually you're going to store the data, or how choosing the right platform for the data, right? If you have something that can be stored in a warehouse, fine. If you can have something that is more into like a document structure, does it need a warehouse? Fine. If there is something that needs to be lying on a relational database, cool. It's up to you to decide like how the data actually will fit. And an orchestration tool, like for example Airflow, something to organize all of that mess that will be running every day, right? So your main product in data engineering is ETL. ETL is extract, transform, load. This is your main core product, right? So your pipeline will extract some data, transform it, load it. You will hear this term a lot. I left here a LinkedIn. I actually in this link you will find like even a more detailed explanation than this, and I recommended some courses there as well, what to go through to help you get this knowledge. But I guess I'm running. Let me check. I guess I'm running out of time here, so let's jump more. So data scientist is the one, like I would say, like the one who gives the company the edge, right? This is the one who can build a personalized user experience. This is the one who can actually know this is the one who has to know machine learning, right? You're going to, all of your job will be building that you're building like machine learning models to come up to solve many problems in the company. Either prediction, right? Kind of like a stock prediction, if our recommendation predictions, user personalization experience as well. It's one of the most trending subjects, right? If you open the website, you're not supposed to see the stuff that actually the other people see as well. It has to be like very tailored to actually what you have been buying, or what you've been exploring in the website, like Amazon, for example, right? This is one of the best personalization experiences, right? To be a data scientist, you really has to know, I would say, like a very strong mathematical knowledge, right? Understand how things work in the background, and for sure you have to learn machine learning algorithms. There are so many of them, right? Support vector machine, linear the whole neural network, the clustering, the k-means, all of these terms, you have to be really aware of it. Me, myself, I work with data scientists, so I will talk more in another slide how we work together as a team. But for me, I'm just aware of the terms, the terminology, the inputs, but I'm not the one who's building the model. I help them scale up the model, right? That's the thing. And for sure, you have to know SQL, a very good SQL with all of the other stuff. And the languages in data, and mainly Python, right? So many people using R, some of them using Scala, but Python is more into have actually more varieties to play around with. There's Python, there's other tools like Pandas, NumPy, like this kind of like tools are really, really powerful. And what gives actually Python the popularity that it has now. So how does people work together, right? Let me give you, this is a sample architecture, right? This is a Google Cloud architecture. Let me just go through this in a minute or two. So on the very left, you have your web app, right? Your web app and mobile apps, right? Those apps are generating events, right? So you opened a category page. Yeah, you opened some product. You search for that product. Those kind of like events. So events usually go to an event stream, and which is in Google case, it's called PubSub. And from PubSub, it goes to Dataflow, which is the ETL here. So all of the crunching transformation of the events will be happening here in Dataflow. And then the result will be stored into like a BigQuery, which is the Google warehouse, right? So this is like as I was mentioning, this is the streaming part here. Batching is when you have like multiple databases here, multiple sources, this is one of the most famous orchestration tool, which is Airflow, running on Composer, will actually pull that data, maybe like daily basis, hourly, monthly, but it's not live anyway, and then move them to like a data lake, and then from data lake to transformation, and then again lands to BigQuery, right? So and here, let's spot the roles, right? So this is your relation with your tech team, right? Ends up here, getting the data to here and knowing where is the data is stored. And then data engineer is the person who is responsible for this, the event stream, responsible for extracting data from this, deploying and managing the cloud the orchestration tool, data lake, crunching, transforming the data warehouse, any action that's supposed to happen right after the event, which is, for example, sending to a backend to notify the user back. All of here is yours, right? So for the analyst, it's here. That's which is like the reporting and the BigQuery, right? So they usually interact with these two most of the time, right? For the data scientist, it's also here and the cloud machine learning in that case, like building machine learning models. So as you can see, like if you remove that big chunk of the picture, there's no data, right? And if there's no data, there's no data engineers, you can't have scientists, you can't have analysts. It's not because I'm in data engineer, but it's the way it is, right? You need someone to bring the data first to the warehouse. So this is kind of like an overall example of how actually things work together. So let's talk about some numbers. And actually, it's a very cool numbers and specifically to Malaysia. So do you guys know that the industry here for the e-commerce market volume was in 2019 was 3 billion USD, right? 2020, during a pandemic, everything was a mess. It doubled to 6 billion USD. 2025, there are projections to that number would reach 13 billion. Why I'm saying this? All of this e-commerce market, all of that volume means data, right? Data to be crunched, data to be analyzed, data to be actually stored somewhere. So this is only Malaysia. We're not talking about Southeast Asia. We're not talking worldwide. We're talking only about a specific industry in Malaysia. Here's also like another interesting thing that happened. Some numbers, really cool numbers actually that happened over the last year. So can you imagine that this year we got 92, not Zalora, right? I'm not talking about Zalora. I'm talking about the whole Malaysian e-commerce industry, right? 92% increase in people who search for an online product or service and bought it. 92%. This is crazy. This is, I'm not sure how to describe this kind of growth, but it's amazing. Another thing is we got 62% increase in people who made an online purchase using their mobile device. So now people are buying from their cell phones, right? So if you're, this is something actually that came up also from the analyst, that the whole experience should be the same at mobile, right? And this is, if your job as an analyst, you should come up with something like this. And 88% increase in the online visit and to any online retail store, either it's a web or mobile app, right? So the industry is, I'm not sure how to sell it to you, but that specific field is actually growing in your own country here in Malaysia. And there are so many companies here in Malaysia looking for talents in that specific field in data to help them keep up with that growth. Now let's talk about the fun part, salaries. So who do you think make the most money of this? It's not an engaging conversation, and probably I'll be like, usually I say like a lame joke, and usually it's the person who make the best salary is the founder of the company. So if you want to make money, you're not supposed to care about engineering role, just start a company. But anyway, out of those three titles, the scientists make the most. So this is based on US salaries. This is not Malaysian salaries. This is US coming from Glassdoor. So, and this is like a yearly numbers. So that scientist come first was almost 140K. That engineer was almost 100K. And then that analyst is 62K. And this is guys like an average. For sure, people make more than this, and sometimes make less. It's based on the experience, right? But this is like the average salaries, and also US, right? I'm done. I want to leave some room for questions. I've been talking a lot for the last, I guess, 45 minutes, looking at myself and the camera, so it's kind of like boring now. So I guess I will stop sharing the slides, and if you guys have some questions, please shoot, and we will answer them. Back to you, Ibrahim.
All right. Thank you, Diab. Very informative conversation. We've learned a lot. We have two questions right now, actually. First one comes from Nitin, and what he says is, he asks a question that is on all of our minds. If I do not have any formal education in the data field, but I do have some practical skills, maybe some projects that I can showcase, would that make me a competent applicant? So will I be able to apply? Will I be able to get a job in the data field?
Actually, that's a very good question, because, for example, imagine the days before there was no mobile developers, right? There's no mobile SDK there. And then suddenly we have one, and then suddenly people have to apply. Do you have to create a mobile application then? It didn't exist, right? So it is the same with data, right? If you are coming from a software engineer mindset, the whole thing is pretty much new. And then you need to join one of the data teams. For sure, you're not going to be like an expert. You will get like an internship, right? What you're going to demonstrate is your Python skills in that sense, how good you are with Python, how good you are with database in general, how good you are as an engineer, right? And then from there will be some mentorship to actually take you in that journey. And there are so many actually cool, interesting online education resources that you can have. Coursera is leading this, Udacity is leading this. The nano degree in Udacity is just amazing. Me, myself, sometimes I go through it. Coursera also is a really good one. So once you go through all of this with having like a good engineering mindset, as I said, you can actually apply. Even myself, if I'm hiring for people, if it's an entry level, what I'm really looking for is not how you're expert with data, is how good you are as an engineer and how good you are, easy to learn new stuff.
All right. So learning adaptability is key.
Yep.
Also, another question we have. This is more related towards our day-to-day communications. So what kind of interpersonal skills are crucial as a data engineer? Like what do you do every day that is interpersonal, that is absolutely important?
You'll be surprised. It's not even tech. It's really about communication and setting expectation to people, right? Because with data engineering specifically, you're the bottleneck for many people. You're a bottleneck for the analyst. You're a bottleneck for the scientist. You're a bottleneck for the whole company, right?
Okay.
And usually, when we jump in to solve a problem, there's a huge part of mystery that we don't know yet, right? As we try to explore the data, the nature, check the quality of the data, because basically by the end of the day, we collect the garbage of everything, right? So if you wrote something wrong in the web application, the data will come in a wrong format to me, then it won't make sense to the analyst. So it's just we lost that record or lost that information, right? So it's always that has the key for us has been always the communication skills and actually being a source of trust to the company, right? Because you can easily be questioned the whole day, right? If you do many mistakes, people will always question your numbers. No, actually, they will be like in a room, and then the executive team will come to you. No, actually, my team did that in sales. Your dashboard is reporting that numbers. Why your numbers are low? Keep doing mistakes like this, and no one will actually be looking at what you're building, and you will lose the trust. So this is like the main two things I really care about.
Okay, another question from Justin. So he asks, what did you wish you knew before getting started on a data career?
Okay, so a funny story how I actually shifted to a data career is by chance. I was working in Mind Valley, and the guy leading the data team, he has to leave, and we didn't find one to replace him. So they told me, you're a good engineer, you can just lead the team, just go there and figure out what's happening there. And it was like a really, how would I say, transforming experience. All of the stuff that I told you guys at the beginning, I was thinking that actually it's a crucial. The whole ORM, ORM is not there. Why? The whole response time. Why this pipeline takes 6 hours? So there are so many things that I came from a web developer background to try to put them in data. They didn't work for sure because they're not supposed to work in data. Plus, also one really good lesson was never build stuff in-house from scratch. Never. Like we did like a really stupid decisions in my career that actually we built, for example, a visualization tool in-house. That was never needed. That was never needed. You just use one of the tools that's ready to save you time. If you're going for ETL, never build the stuff from scratch. Just use one that's ready and just add on the top of that.
All right. So one more question. What personality traits do you think are more suited for each of the data roles that you mentioned?
Yeah. So the analyst is the key person, right? The analyst is the guy who can save the team, right? So if you are an analyst, your communication skills has to be like from 0 to 10, it have to be like 8 at least, right? And you know how to talk to the business. This is a totally different skill. You get it by time. Because the problem that I'm also sure, Ibrahim, like you, me, being like a lot in the tech industry, we always talk about code. Is when you go to someone, you try to explain them what you're thinking in terms of code, and you seem like an alien to them. No one gets no one gets what you want and what you want to explain. So analyst has to come up how actually to be like the translator of this, right? How actually to explain the problem to the business, how to convince the business this is the way we need to go, right? So again, it's communication across all of the role. Analyst is the one that should be like the best communication skills. Engineers has to have the communication skills to talk to the analyst, scientist, and a bit of the business. Scientists are the most chilled. They don't talk much to the business. They kind of like prove their point, and then it goes up to like someone take care of that later on.
All right. Justin asks, which of the Python libraries would you recommend for newcomers to learn?
Pandas. Pandas is a must-have. Pandas is it's a tool to query in memory. So you'll hear a lot like Pandas, Jupyter Notebook. Those two things you have actually to get right away with it. It's really nice to have, and will save you so much time, and will give you actually so much insights about data.
All right. Karim Usama asks, as a lead data engineer, does your daily job actually entail programming and developing, or is it more towards managing a team of people?
So it's the same as the software engineering, right? If you're a junior, you spend most of your time coding. Senior, you still spend most of your time coding and then mentoring a bit of your teammates, the juniors. If you are a lead, then 20%, 30% of your time max go to coding, and then the rest actually goes to managing the resources and talking to the business and more into like the architecture side of things. So you put the whole picture, you make sure everyone is aligned and working together, and you jump and code with them as well. Like, but that's not the main thing you do. It's like 20, 30% ish.
All right, great question from Karim. Uh, any, we'll leave like another minute or two for questions. If anybody has anything else to add before Diab leaves the seminar. All right. We'll make sure to send Diab's LinkedIn account on the group. Oh, okay. Justin asks, do you need a master's degree or a PhD for data career?
No, not at all. Not at all. I have never properly in data science. Maybe we might need them, but analyst or and I have met so many data scientists that they don't have like a master degree or PhD, and they're really one of the top, and they're working for a really big companies and speak, like not only in Malaysia, in US, and really one of the big players like Facebook, LinkedIn, this kind of stuff. But they don't have like a master degree or PhD. They're really good at what they do.
All right. Karim is asking you, how did you end up in Malaysia?
It's a really it's a really really long story, Kareem. It's like we can discuss it on my LinkedIn, but it was like I came visiting as a trip, and I just fall in love with scale, and suddenly I decided to move in and look for jobs here, and I got a job at Mind Valley, and then here in Zalora as well. So, and it has been like an amazing 5 years in Malaysia.
Yeah, and apparently he left Egypt because of its cold weather.
Yeah, we're talking about that protocol. I can't survive in winter.
We have another question. I'm sorry. Okay, Nathan asks, is there a demand of data-related roles in Zalora
There are
right
super,
now?
super demand roles. There are super demand roles. We are really expanding in Malaysia specifically, and we really need good candidates to onboard on the team. So please, like if you ready to go for like a data career, if you know someone that is up to, just talk to me, and then let's see how it works.
Yeah, just remember that we have the HR people from the HR and acquisition team coming up next, so you can ask them more questions related to that as well. Nitin asks, how's your work-life balance?
Okay, so this is like a bigger debate, but I have a different perspective of work-life balance, right? Because I don't see them as two, right? It's work is part of your life, right? It's not what when you're working you're dead, right? It's still both of them are the same thing. But I mean, I get the type of the question, but the thing is, I manage my priorities, right? So I follow deep work practices. It's a really nice book that you guys have to check out and read. So I try to be efficient as much as I can during the working time, and then by the rest of the day I do something else. So the lifesaver with me was the deep work book. It's how to actually be more efficient in a really short time as well.
All right.
But
Great
I play
answer.
PlayStation. I see my friends. I go for coffee. I drink shisha. So there's pretty much there's pretty much balance there. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're coming up on the end of the first half of our seminar. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohamed Diab. We were very informative. And that's it for me. Sajid is going to take it from here. Please make sure to stay tuned in for the HR and acquisitions team. They have a lot to tell us as well. So see you guys.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Ibrahim.
Yeah, and one last thing. There's a 5 minutes break right now. Get some water. Get ready for the next half is going to be crazy. Yeah. All right. See ya.
Cool. See you guys. Bye.
All right. Welcome back, guys. So, first of all, a big thank you to Mr. Diab for that insightful conversation that we had. Um, and next, we are going to have Mr. Yannick and Mr. Jason from Zalora. Mr. Yannick is a manager at the talent acquisition department at Zalora, and Jason is a talent expert from Zalora as well. So I would like to introduce Mr. Yannick.
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for making time for this session. And then, like Mr. Diab's session earlier, want to make it as casual as possible. Please put in as many questions as you can, and we'll try to get them answered as the best as we could. All right. What I'll do is I'll share my screen. Hold on. Oops. Give me a sec. Could you give me a moment? Slight hiccup here.
All right, guys. Give us just a second. There is some trouble in share screen. Um, All right, so the screen sharing is now enabled. You can go ahead, Yannick.
All right, cool.
All right, cool.
Thanks very much,
Thanks
Sajid.
very much, Sajid.
Okay, I'm gonna need
Your
your
help
help to.
to.
Should I move on to the next slide first?
All right,
All right, cool.
You can move on to the next step. All right, cool. All right, I'm sorry for the slight hiccup earlier. Okay, just before we go further in this presentation, right? So just want to introduce what does talent acquisition mean for some of you who don't know. So basically, let's say whenever you apply for a job, right, and then most likely it will go through the talent acquisition team. So how it works is whether you apply through JobStreet, whether you apply to a career site or like LinkedIn, all these like social media platforms, and then they will flow to a database and it will go to the talent acquisition team. The talent acquisition team will be then working together with the business. So for example, let's say if Diab's hiring, so then the talent acquisition team will work together with Diab to find out more about his requirements for his team. And then we will like filter through the applications and then imagine us being like a bridge between the candidates and then also the business. So we're like kind of like the gatekeeper of this. So just want to insert one advice here. So let's say if you go on LinkedIn, you want to connect with people, it's good to connect with talent acquisition people, just to network with them, get yourself noticed. So then you know who do you want to reach out to once you like apply for the role. So the talent acquisition team that sit in Malaysia, so we function as a regional team. So I'm the manager in the team. So like under my team, so there are two arms you can imagine. One is like non-tech talent acquisition, another one is like tech talent acquisition, which is under Jason's umbrella. So for the purpose of today, so I think I've already covered the technical stuff of what we want to discuss. So like we want to cover like an overview of what Zalora is all about and how I want to approach hiring. And then like I'll try to make it as general as possible as well. Some of it's more centered to Zalora. Another part is like some tips that you can do on your general applications when you're applying elsewhere. All right, Sajid, next slide. All right, so just an introduction about us, right? So if you can see here, so Zalora was incepted in 2012. So we're like 9 years old tops, right? So we're like, relatively speaking, we're like a very young company, but we're not like a startup as well. So we could consider this company at growth stage. So I mean, so we are in a good place. We have the necessary structures that we need to in order for us to grow financially. We're stable. So like this is like the time where it's an exciting time to join Zalora because we have the resources we want. We have the money we need. So let's say to push initiatives. So people who come in here in Zalora push all these creative solutions out. I mean, this is like the best time to join us. So if you can see here, so we have presence in Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei, Philippines, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. So APAC in itself is a quite unique, I would say, collection of markets because the extent of localization that we need to do from a commercial standpoint is also more. So for example, if we were to look at Europe as an example, right? So the extent of localization you need to do like each of those individual countries is not as great as we need to do it for Asia, because if you look at the countries under all markets itself, right? So all of these have like, I would say, localized taste that's like determined by culture, determined by like power of purchase and like currency and like all those factors as well, which is why like I think Southeast Asia is such an exciting market for e-commerce, and then like it might be still in like growth mode for the next 10 years or so. And then, so as we mentioned here, so we're part of Global Fashion Group, the world's leader in online fashion for emerging markets. We'll explain more in the next slide. And then if you guys have shopped on Zalora, so you know that one of our biggest selling points that we offer up to 30-day free returns. All right, thanks, Ajit. Okay, so this is like the Global Fashion Group network, right? So, so Global Fashion Group is our parent company, so it's headquartered in UK, and then it has like a fashion e-commerce in like almost every region. So if you see here, so there's Zalora in Asia Pacific, there's La Moda in Russia, there's Iconic in Australia, there's Dafiti in South America. So all of us are within the same business. We're like, for most parts, like fashion e-commerce, but of course, Zalora has evolved to cover fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. All of us started around the same time. And I think what's unique being in this group is there's a lot that we can leverage from each other. Some of us have advanced in like certain areas more compared to others. There's some centralization that you want to do. For example, let's say using data as an example, right? If we know like there are like some good practices from Dafiti that we can learn from, so we're going to pick it up. And then, for example, like from a commercial perspective, so let's say if we do something that's great, the iconic wants to model from, so that's something that we could do as well. And then this also translates to opportunities within the people in the group as well, whether it's like internal mobility, moving from one market to another. And then we've had like transfers from Dafiti to Zalora, Zalora to Iconic, Iconic to Zalora. So these are the opportunities that are available. All right, next slide. All right, so okay, these are our business models without going too technical in too detail in like any of these three. So because from a consumer perspective, we buy, like you see all these brands Zalora and then you make a purchase, right? And then they get delivered to you. But from internally, right? So these operate on different business models. And then, for example, if you're shopping on Zalora, if you see like Zalia, Lubna, so these are like Zalora's own brands. So we categorize them under private label, which means that we manufacture them from start to finish. So we manufacture them in China and then we like sell it on our respective markets. So the second one is buying. So buying refers to, I would say, it's still our main business model portfolio. So if you see these are some of the brands that we have under the buying model. This basically means we buy the stocks from like any of these brands, we keep them in a fulfillment center, and we consider them our own stocks. So this is considered like a high risk model because we have to like invest first. But the beauty of this is we can play around price points more, and it is where like the data and all come into the picture as well. We want to see like when do you want to go dynamic, when do you want to like taper off. So these are the factors that we look at. The third one is marketplace. Marketplace is probably a model that everyone is more familiar with because generally e-commerce plays in Malaysia, they operate mainly on a marketplace model. Marketplace model is, what's good about this one doesn't allow us to invest upfront. So for example, let's say if you buy something from Ted Baker, right? So that means it gets shipped from Ted Baker. It doesn't get shipped from Zalora's warehouse, which is why like it from an efficiency standpoint, like pivoting standpoint, like marketplace is very good, which is what we did last year. So Zalora in the beginning was like fashion e-commerce, and then we grew from fashion to cover beauty and lifestyle within a very short span of time. And we managed to do that because we really like capitalize on like marketplace model. Suddenly, like if you guys could remember last year, suddenly we added like electronics, toys, gourmet food, quite a lot of those like new categories on Zalora. And then these were made possible and efficient because of the marketplace model. Right, next slide. All right, so if you see here, right, so this like, this covers like vision, key drivers, values, and also our purpose. So this is for how Zalora functions, but this also translate on how we hire people as well. So for example, if you see vision here to be Asia's #1 online fashion destination, and then we are like on a very good track on being one. And then if you see, we aspire to become a trusted brand our customers love. So that basically means, right, so because we want to create a great customer experience. So without customers, we wouldn't have like this kind of business, right? So customer is our #1 stakeholder. Our second stakeholder, if you see, is to become a respected partner to the fashion world. I think what we pride ourselves in is that, so we become like, so whichever brand that we bring in onto Zalora, I mean, these like all legit brands. So they're like original, and then we see them being an appeal to like our markets. So, and then we want to like become a great partner to them as well. So we want to solve all their problems. So let's say if they want to scale up their business, so that's where we come into the picture. If they want to know like more about consumer insights, so that's where we come into the picture as well. So making sure that they will always want to like sell on Zalora. So the third one is to become a leading employer in Asia. I mean, we are nothing without our people. And then we have grown like quite a lot since our startup base in 2012. So now we're in 2021. So and then like Diab mentioned just now, right? So we are hiring. I mean, data people are like some of the like crucial hires, critical talent segment that we're looking at, and then there are like other areas as well. The idea is in order for us to scale, right, we need to ensure that our people are able to like scale up as well. So and then that's like one of the main crucial drivers for like Zalora. We want to like hire, we want to bring like like-minded people into the company. So that's the stakeholder, people in Zalora. So we want to make sure that people in Zalora are happy, they have the growth they need, they have like the learning opportunities they need. And then this is like echoing like one of the questions that was posted to Diab just now. So let's say if you don't have an education background in data, how do you scale up, right? So so these are like some of the, let's say if you do manage to come into Zalora, so like there are quite a lot of like learning opportunities for you to like grow, not necessarily in your respective area, but maybe if you want to switch to other areas, like those are the supports that we could provide. The fourth one is to maintain the long-term confidence of the shareholders. Okay, this is like our fourth stakeholder, you could say. Because we are like under Global Fashion Group and now it's a listed company. So I guess whenever as long as the company is doing well, shareholders are happy. So, and then like we can like continue on the same trajectory. All right, so values. So if you look at, so these are the 4 values, right? I mean, the first one is really a given thing, integrity. So it's integrity is a situation of whether you have it or you don't, right? So this is something that we really value in Zalora, especially that now in Zalora is at that stage where whatever initiative that you push, and then you can see the results of it, right? And then we want someone to like really do the right thing in like pushing something. So second part is teamwork. So teamwork, right? I think what's unique about teamwork in Zalora is it doesn't only mean teamwork within your immediate team. So let's say you come into the data science team, for example. It doesn't mean like only teamwork within your team, because it also means teamwork cross-departmentally as well. So like Diab was mentioning just now, if you come in as a data analyst, most likely you'll be working quite a lot with the business. So it's like teamwork with them as well. Because what we noticed, right, as we grew larger, we are more successful when we work across different departments. So not only for you to have like a better overview of what's going on in the business, but also for you to get involved, who to reach out to for like the right things. And of course, like as you build this like rapport and personal connection, professional personal connection with like different people. So that's when you get like things moving really, really fast. The third one is ownership. So as I mentioned just now, so Zalora is in such an exciting stage now, because we're in a good place financially. Business-wise, we're doing great. So this is where we encourage people to like push initiatives, be creative in solutioning, right? And then the beauty of it is when you push it, and then you could almost see the results immediately, and then you could see it translating into something positive, because we're at that stage where we're like encouraging growth, and then it will definitely be recognized. I mean, these are some of the things that we want to make sure that we don't take granted for, because when people push initiatives, people put a lot of effort and passion into it, and then you'll definitely see the results of it. Okay, the fourth one is excellence. Yes, we encourage people to push initiatives. Yes, we encourage people to like work as a team, but we're outcome driven as well. So we want to see those things we put being translated into something that's successful. And then let's say if you push an initiative and it doesn't end up becoming like super successful, it's fine. But as long as you learn from it and you know how to want to like push it better next time. So we have for example, there's one thing called OKR that we practice in this company. It basically means like company objectives, where we put like a stretch target just to ensure that everyone like strives for a bit more. But the point is, having a stretch target is like we want people to be like limitless in what they aim for, and then people like to dream big. So we don't want like when you aim for something, we don't want to put like all these limitations in place. So the idea is for you to put a stretch target, and then like let's see how much you can scale from there, and then like you adjust it and like just approach it better next time. And then purpose. We want to bring in like-minded people, people who are like passionate about what we do as well. And then we'll encourage innovative thinkers, like I mentioned, creative solutioning, passionate about making the most desirable fashion accessible to everyone in Asia. Yep. So like we're all about customer experience, but also about employee experience as well. So when you when you see the success of what you do, I mean, it becomes motivating just for everyone. All right, next slide. All right, so this is like a very high level overview of the manpower in Zalora. I mean, this is like across like all the markets we're in. Roughly, we're about 1,500, 1,600 employees. So we have more than 31 nationalities here in Zalora. So it's almost like United Nations here. Some countries will have like more nationalities than others, especially like Malaysia and Singapore. So yeah, you have like now we probably have like an employee from like every continent. So, like we have a lot of Europeans, we have a lot of people from like different countries in Asia Pacific, from Latin America, from Africa. Like we have all those as well. So average age, we are a fairly young company. So like average age is below 32. And then I think how we operate also is young. I mean, young in the sense that we like people who like to hustle. We like people who are adaptable, because e-commerce is like it's a very fast moving business. And then like we need to make some of those necessary pivots in order to accommodate to like the consumer demand at that point of time. And then people who are able to make all these pivots, and then like usually these are the people that can thrive like really well in Zalora. All right, next slide. Okay, so before we play this video, right? So I just want to like let you guys know that this video is like special for a number of reasons, right? So this was a video that we just released when, I mean, all companies was starting to work from home, so including Zalora. So this is a video that is not only, I would say, for people in Zalora, but it's also for our customers as well. So it just shows that, I mean, because with all this like working from home situation, right? And then like there are a lot of things that people need to adapt and adjust. It's quite a new environment. It's quite a new thing for like most people. So yeah, I mean, either way, I mean, it's working well for us. And it might work well for like some other people as well. But what we're trying to say is we're mindful that although it's working well from a business point of view, we still want to be people oriented about it, because working from home has its own set of challenges and drawbacks. But yeah, I mean, I'll let Sajid play this video, and then like just to show like how people oriented and customer oriented we are.
About 1,700 new cases.
I am officially declaring a national
state of national emergency has
Overworked medical professionals.
Vietnam has
highest number in Southeast Asia.
It's gonna be alright. How can you tell? Yeah, yeah, I feel it in my heart. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be okay. The sun is shining bright. To
Another day working from home.
This is what makes my workplace special.
All right, what a great video. I would like to welcome Mr. Jason as well, who will be joining Yannick and Mr. Jason. Hi.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name is Jason. I'm the Associate Manager for Talent Acquisition. Nice to meet you all. So next slide, please. So today I'm going to start off by telling you guys the tech team in the business. So firstly, I'm going to talk to you guys about the front-end team. They are the web developer converting data to the graphic interface through the use of technology. So the user that you and me can use and interact with the data. So for the backend team, they are the one that build and maintain the technology that power the component which together enable the user-facing side of the website to ever exist in the first place. So these two teams actually support our website in Zalora. So next would be the mobile engineering team. So this team is to develop and build our software engineer application for our smartphone and also other mobile devices such as iOS and Android. So of course, we also have our mobile backend team as well that primarily use Go languages to support the infrastructure behind it. Of course, next would be the enterprise technology. So the enterprise technology team is the one that support our internal technology, so such as security, HRS, Oracle, SAP, and etc. Of course, lastly, of course, Diab have also mentioned a little bit about our data team as well. So I won't repeat too much on that, but it overall covers data mining, machine learning, as well as big data. Moving on to the product management team. So the product management team is the bridge that between the business team as well as the tech team. So they are the one that build our product development, product launch, product strategy, as well as building our user experience roadmap. Lastly, but not least, definitely is our user experience team. So in short, it's the UX team, are the one that really design the product that are useful to use and of course to interact with. They work very closely with our product managers to build an interactive app and website for us to use actually. So this really cover the whole entire tech departments itself. So moving on, next slide, please. So this is the few programming language that we use in Zalora. So definitely some of you guys might be quite familiar with like PHP, Java, or even Python itself. So I won't go so much of the details of it, but I just want to share what programming language that our engineers are using. So like Swift and Objective-C that you are seeing right here is actually for our iOS team. 𝐂𝐚𝐫, if you can see the superhero Android there, is actually the Android team. And of course, PHP and Java is our backend team, JavaScript, EML, and of course, SQL is our front end, and the rest as well. Next, please, thanks. So here's some of the essential skills that we are looking for when we are hiring graduates. So let's start off with the most important one, communication. So the ability to communicate effectively to anyone is really essential. So definitely there is 6 areas that we are looking for as a talent acquisition. So that is definitely open-minded, friendliness, confidence, listening, non-verbal communication, that is your body language, and of course, respect. Next would be the problem solving. Definitely is one of the most important in every career, especially if you're an engineer. You must have this ability to handle any kind of difficult situation using certain programming language to solve certain issues that we have on a daily basis. Similar to like Diab mentioned, this certain programming language to solve certain solution in everyday life itself. So next would be willing to learn. Definitely, if you have that kind of mentality, it really shows how hungry you are in learning and improving yourself from time to time. Next would be flexibility. So flexibility is an important soft skill as it demonstrates an ability and willingness to embrace new tasks and of course new challenges to calmly and quickly as well as really adapt to a certain situation like how Yannick have mentioned as well. Last but not least, of course, basic coding and algorithm. Without the basic coding skill, you won't be able to do the role, especially in the software engineering team, as all the teams require at least basic coding skill to pick up some of the tasks really given to you. This also applies to the product management team, as well as they really require the basic knowledge of SQL to cover those kind of things on end-to-end. Next, please. So I want to share some of the general career advice to you guys to take it home after this whole entire seminar. Of course, please, firstly, of course, do what you love. You might want to be an engineer or you want to be an entrepreneur itself. Please and go and do that. You'll never be bored for the rest of your life or even wake up regretting the choice that you've made. Even Steve Jobs really quoted the same message. The only way to do a great job is to love what you do. Of course, next would be seeking internship opportunity. It really teaches you the real life experience in the workplace that you never learn in class or even in school. Additionally, it really is you to find a full-time job with internship experience, or even got a job right after your internship itself. Next would be start learning a new skill. You might want to start learning new programming languages, or even in Java, or even in SQL, or even in PHP. Those things, those kind of languages really will help you to get a better career. If you're not really interested in coding language, you might want to start learning other new skills similar to maybe languages like Korean or even Japanese itself. I think building an awesome resume and cover letter is very common, as everyone do that. So just prepare a professional resume and send it to your potential employer. Just be professional and clear in your resume. Definitely please check for spelling error, because TA like us really check for that quite commonly. Don't worry, there is a lot of great example in the internet. You can Google it up. Next would be, please stop failing failures. It's okay to fail sometimes, but not dwell on it. Learn from it and be better next time. Next would be, start networking with people. Create a LinkedIn profile and add me or even Yannick itself or even anyone in the industry. Connect better with your friends, your professors, your working colleagues. Build a good and long-lasting relationship. You never know, they might refer you to a good job later on. Last but not least, of course, attitude is everything. We as a TA, we really see this very importantly, because once we actually interview you, we see your behavior, we see your attitude. And if those things really come across, then we won't put you through to the next round. Similar, if you have a good CGPA as well, we do see that, but the attitude is the most crucial part of the whole entire thing itself. So be humble and respectful. Next, please. Thanks. So this is the career opportunity in the business itself. We do have a full-time role in product executive under the product management team. Of course, we do have our usual internship of a minimum 5 to 6 months for any department itself, including Diab's departments. Just send your cover letter and resume to careers@zalora.com. Our respective TA will reach out to you accordingly. So we want to get in touch with you, definitely. Please take some time to scan the QR code on the left if you have a Google account, on the right if you don't have a Google account. So I will give you guys around few minutes to take to scan this, and then we will get that recorded. Yes, so that's all for today. Please follow us via this link. There is the LinkedIn QR code as well as the Zalora link as well. You can follow us via this QR code. And if you have any question at all, please do email us at Zalora at career@zalora.com. Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. But thank you so much, Jason. You can go ahead and scan this code. And also, you can go ahead and put your questions down on the comment section so that we can get them answered by the people who are potentially going to be recruiting you. So let's move on to the Q&A now. So let me start by a question from Diane. Diane asks, what sort of experience do you all usually look out for? I think what he's meaning here is what kind of important aspects do you look out from a potential candidate?
All right, I can take this one. Okay, taking this on a most general level, right? So if you look at it, we're hiring across all departments, right? So all these departments would have, I would say, the unique set of requirements. And when I say unique set of requirements, meaning mostly from a skill set standpoint. So, and then, but as we have covered just now, Jason has covered rightfully just now, and then Diab also has covered this. I mean, there's a mindset aspect that's equally important. There's an attitude aspect that's equally important as well. Especially that if you're looking at, let's say, if you're like just about to graduate and you're applying for a job for your first time, right? So experience might not be the most important factor. Number one is because you might not have as extensive of an experience as I mean, to be fair, right? I mean, we can't expect like a fresh graduate to have like 5 years of working experience. This is like, doesn't make sense. So in terms of, okay, the feel of what you study, so that is a factor, but that's not the only factor. So for example, let's say if you study tech and you want to do something that's more commercial driven, right? So that is also okay. Going back to the CV point that Jason brought up earlier, is like, how do you want to showcase that, right? So perhaps like you've got involved with like a project in university, or like you have a freelance gig that you're doing outside university. So the point is to showcase all these things as much as you can. I mean, the relevant one, of course, in your CV. And then that shouldn't be a problem when it reaches out to us. Because for us, for the company, right, when you look at it, e-commerce itself, it's a very young industry, right? And then we can also keep hiring people from e-commerce industry. And at the same time, let's say if you want to hire for marketing department, we can't keep hiring people from like marketing grads only. So we need to be somewhat open-minded as well on that front. So yes, I would say looking at all the factors, technical skill set, that helps. The field of your study, that helps. Your attitude and approach towards things, that helps. And then like how you want to showcase yourself, that helps. So I would say like taking all these 4 factors into account, I would say, especially if you're a fresh grad. So I mean, all these are the factors that we look at to hire for Zalora.
Right. Diane then goes on to ask whether you guys give on-the-job training as well.
Okay, so like the training in Zalora, right? Could come in many forms. Number one is yes, on-the-job training. So let's say in the event that you do join whichever team, let's say if you don't join the data team, everyone will go through a teething period, no matter how like perfect of a candidate you are. So when you come in, you might be familiar with one system already, but when you come to Zalora, it's going to be like another system they use. And then that is like all the managers in Zalora would have been prepared for that, because we can't expect someone who come in first day on the ground running like immediately. So that is something we definitely provide on the job training. So apart from like on-the-job training, what we do is whenever applicable and whenever it's like necessary. So we also send out for training. So for example, right, let's say tech department, data department, like whether let's say if we use AWS as a cloud tech, and then let's say we need the people in the team to be like familiar with AWS, so we send for training. So same goes whether it's like GCP or like a coding language. So those are the things that we do. Also to highlight, because Zalora also will identify as a fashion company, how we run is very tech and data driven. So like some of these aspects, I mean these are the things that we look at seriously as well.
All right, nice. We have another question from Nitin. So he goes on to ask, the minimum duration you guys are looking for is 5 to 6 months in terms of internship. But in Monash, the longest break is 3 months. How flexible is the internship duration?
Okay, so for this one, we're fairly flexible. I mean, it depends on the university requirement, right? So I know like some of the university students, they do their internship during the semester itself. Sometimes they do it during break. But generally, I would say the range is anywhere from 2 to 6 months. So I think, let's say if your longest break is 3 months, and then that's the only period you can do your internship, shouldn't be a problem for us.
All right, thanks for that. Another question from Aisha. Aisha asks, do you need to have coding experience to be hired as an intern in Zalora? This really depends on the department, right?
I guess this is like more department specific, but Jason, you might have more insight on this one for tech.
Correct. So definitely, if you have a basic coding experience in certain team like software engineering team or even front end team would be very awesome. Or maybe you can just do some self-learning or even pickups through YouTube itself would be really awesome itself. But of course, we do have our on-hand on-the-job training, so don't have to be too worried about that.
All right, thanks. And another question from Jun Kong. He asks how application process is like in technical roles.
Jason, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So it depends on you whether it's an internship position or even a full-time position. So if it's a full-time position, it will be around 4 rounds of interview, including live coding and also system design. But if it's an internship position, it's only a 2 rounds interview process. So it's pretty quick for internship.
And then, so just to add what Jason just said, right? It depends on whether it's intern and whether it's full-time, and it also depends on what team you're going into. Like some of these might have like a technical assessment in as part of the interview process. Some of them don't. So we're pretty fluid on this one. And then the interview process is being, I would say, conducted comprehensively, so that like each of the interview rounds is assessing a specific criteria, so that in the event that you become successful, right? So like you pass like the culture round, you pass a technical round, and then let's say if you don't become successful, so we can give appropriate feedback as well, because each of the interview rounds are like supposed to look at a particular angle.
Right. I think continuing on that, how much of interview rounds do you usually have for a technical role, for example?
Normally would be around 4 rounds of interview.
Right. So the first would be to see how the candidate's attitude are and the basic skills.
The basic field, career aspiration and everything. The second round will be more of a live coding towards the certain coding or languages that they are interested. So if like more backend would be more PHP, if it's more mobile, it will be iOS or even Kotlin itself. So it really depends on the position they apply.
Right.
So just to add, right, so like to Jason's point, so 4 rounds sounds like a lot, but it's usually a situation where like they combine the second, third, or fourth round. So it's like a few different interviewers, but we make it in a loop session. So what will happen is, let's say like the second, third, fourth round is a situation where it's booked 3 slots. So like you speak one interview for like 45 minutes, the second interview 45 minutes, the interview 45 minutes. Yeah.
All right, great. And we have come to the end of the Q&A. Is there anything that Mr. Jason or Mr. Yannick likes to add?
Nothing in particular, but we really like look forward to. I would say we because we're on a hiring period as well. I mean, we're on a heavy hiring period, but at the same time, we want to like engage with future talent, and we believe that we want to bring in people who are. And with the fact that you are all in this call, that means you are interested. This shows like proactivity from your end. So this is something that not only for a company like Zalora, but any company would definitely appreciate, because in the end of the day, right, when you apply for jobs, right, I would say every bit kind of matters. So like, how do you differentiate yourself from the other applicants out there? So like, the fact that you're willing to take your time on a weekend to attend something like this, and then to understand more about your future prospects, understand more about the data part that Diab was mentioning just now. Those are all like, we really appreciate that.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Yannick and Mr. Jason. Thank you so much for your time. And also Mr. Diab, he's not here, but really appreciate the fact that you guys took your weekend to basically share your insights as to how the hiring process is in Zalora. Hope to see some more candidates fill in their applications and coming your way soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very
Thanks a lot.
much. Take care now.
See you.